Hello, friends and beautiful people. It is Kathryn and 5D Visionary, Elevated Consciousness Coach. Hello. We are live for episode 5 of All Things Ascension. Welcome. It is very, very timely to bring this information to you today. There I am. If you're joining live, say hello. Hi, Kathryn. Welcome, settle in. We got a lot to talk about here. And I'm gonna fix my Farrah Fawcett hair. I would have killed for this in the 70s, but right now it's a little too floofy. Today we are talking about, in All Things Ascension, episode 5, understanding 4D. Hello. Hey, everybody. You may want to get some water for this one. Hi, Vudri. Yeah, settle in for a second. Really open your heart to this space, okay? Especially for those of my friends here watching who are in the US and are still reeling from the collective hangover of yesterday's kind of disgraceful display. Let's just open our hearts in this space. We can do that with each other, right? Because we are here to support each other. We're here to love each other. We're here to be a shoulder to lean on in times like this, where we are being invited to look at some of the bigger themes playing out for us. That, yes, there's some gifts in the garbage, and I'm going to talk about that. Because even though when these painful things transpire, there's always wisdom to bring back from it. You will always be given the opportunity, in especially the most challenging circumstances, to take wisdom from that experience. That is taking the unity consciousness perspective. That is taking the higher dimensional perspective. And we're going to talk about a lot of that here. I was furiously scribbling notes before I jumped on here because I had everything set up for our talk. And then yesterday happened and I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. There's so much to talk about. Hi, David. Hi, Crystal. So I find it very interesting. That I had chosen to do this topic, understanding 4D, not only because there's a lot of room for expanding talk and discussion around this area, because I do think it's misunderstood, but because of, in the light of what happened in the US in our nation's capital yesterday. Hi, Kristen. That this is going to serve as, in our talk today, a living example of how 4D works, okay? So my friend David says, I call them offerings. I could not agree more, because this is giving us the opportunity to have this offering yesterday to show us, all right, what wisdom can we take away from this? And how do we shift things as a result of seeing what has played out in the collective yesterday? Hi, Angela. So we're going to talk about that here. We're going to talk about what 4D is. I want to give you a brief outline of what's happening here. We're going to talk about what 4D is, how it functions, how it is a necessary initiation portal for those of us on the quest. We are seeking 5D, 6D, 7D, and beyond. You can't get there without going through 4D. You can't. Sorry. Can't do it. It's an initiation portal, and a very important one. Because again, wisdom. It gives us wisdom. When we move through the steps of awareness of this initiation portal, which is 4D, it allows us to move into 5D, 6D, 7D, 8D, 9D, and beyond without resistance. Okay? Because simply there are things that we need to clear up as part of the 4D initiation portal, vibrations that we need to release ourselves from, in order to move into those higher dimensional levels of awareness, because literally they are vibrations that are not supported in especially 6D, 7D, and beyond, okay? Hi, Danielle. Yes. You know it. It'll be on my YouTube channel after this, and I'll have it here in the group for as long as it's here. So you could tag yourself on it if you want. But you can always look for, if you want to find any of the All Things Ascension videos in the Global Acceleration of Ascension group, I always hashtag it, and I always hashtag the episode number. So you can do that to find it. But it's always, all this stuff is on my YouTube channel as well, the episodes. So I find it interesting that I had made the plan to talk about this, and then what happened in the US. And if you're watching here, you're in the United States, and you're scratching your head about, okay, what does this all mean? What wisdom can we get out of this? This is terrible. This is awful. I'm going to give you also in this talk today information about how to work through the energies of 4D, literally how to work the steps of awareness of 4D. And then at the end, we're going to have a guided practice that I'm going to take you through that is going to help you understand and make very visceral, tangible, practical, applicable in your everyday life how to know if you're playing too much in the fantasy astral realm of 4D and you're not grounded in 3D, meaning you're not bringing the wisdom and the information back from the higher messages that do filter through from the higher dimensions into 4D. When you're not bringing back those messages and grounding them in 3D, and when you're actually grounding into or playing with the fantasy of lower vibration energies that are part of the collective field, the energetic soup of 4D that is not serving you and not serving humanity, okay? So we're going to talk about those things. We're going to discuss some stuff. I'm going to give you the living example breakdown of what happened in the US yesterday and why this is so representative of what is playing out in 4D right now. And you're going to have a guided practice at the end. That's going to be really helpful. And it's something that you can use going forward, and it's going to be a very useful tool for you. And as always, you know, I'm not going to sit here and commiserate about what happened yesterday, and I'm not going to talk about how dire this is or how terrible. My role as a teacher and my very powerful purpose and mission here is to always and ever invite you to look at all sides and the higher vantage point perspective of what's really going on. And just like any other time I teach, this is going to be no different, okay? So stick around if you want some higher perspective and you want to know how to use this higher perspective as wisdom that you can download and you can ground it and you can move on into the next stage of your development and growth as a spiritual being, okay? As a human being, having a prolonged, protracted, but very powerful spiritual awakening, okay? Fair enough? Sound good? Give me some hearts if you guys are on board. Made it a little late. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Heather. Does it also hold true on the smaller personal level too? Absolutely. Because we're not separate. We have our individuated expression of consciousness to answer Angela's question. Does it also hold true on the smaller personal level? Yes, because everything is connected and we are all connected. And even though we are talking about 4D as a collective energetic soup, it is literally the collective unconscious. It is the collective thought mind, but it is a realm of feeling. And we can't ever participate in the collective if we're not experiencing it on the personal, right? And we can't ever experience something in the personal if it's not in the collective. Everything is tied in, and everything is a reflection and a projection of the one all, the all that is. Okay? It's about the long game. It certainly is. All right. So I find it interesting that this talk is happening now. Am I surprised? And did I get a bunch of downloads last night after pretty much preparing all the notes for this talk? And then yesterday happened and I got a whole new set of information. But it's all good because everything is divine timing. And if you're just in flow with your life and you don't try to white knuckle like, oh, it's supposed to look like this, then you allow yourself for information to move through you, right? Okay. So 4D, understanding 4D. This is, I think, a highly misunderstood realm. I think people get the fact that it is an astral realm, right? This is an astral realm where we have archetypes. This is the realm of fantasy. Yes, it's like a huge energetic soup of all things that are possible, because it has a massive spectrum available in this dimensional level of awareness between negative and positive polarities. It is highly dualistic, okay? It is the realm of the human collective mind, particularly the human collective unconscious, okay? Carl Jung talked about it quite a bit. What he was talking about really is 4D. This is the realm where we have archetypes, myths, demons, angels, villains, heroes. The odyssey of the hero's journey is information that comes to us creatively from 4D. Okay? Wherever there is a human odyssey, an awakening, a journey involved, this comes to us from reflections that show up, projections that show up in 4D, and it filters into 3D. It's important to remember that we don't exist here in density, in this 3D experience, and then go out from there. We are out here. We are everywhere. We are anywhere and everywhere our consciousness resides, which is a lot of places. We have expressions in dimensional awarenesses beyond what we think we do. Let's just say you have an expression of you in 24th dimensional awareness. You may not be consciously connected to that. That doesn't mean that your consciousness isn't residing there. It's just that your focus and attention happens to be on a different timeline. Okay? We are out here, everywhere. We are all that is. We are dust and light and particles and antiparticles, all those things meeting and clashing all at once. We are all that is. This isn't the end all be all. This is just one place we arrive at in 3D, in density. So we're playing in a lot of different levels of consciousness all at once. And it takes a long time, quote unquote, for us to come down and reach density, where we identify as being matter or form, physical. And our physical realm and the 5 senses of third dimensional level reality, that just happens to be the 5 senses, that just happens to be the information system that's telling us who we are now. Is that the whole truth? Is it the full snapshot? No. It's just where our focus and attention is residing now, this level of consciousness. That happens to be where our mass tipping point of awareness takes us into this timeline. Is that all you are? Is this all you're experiencing? Absolutely effing not. It's just a snapshot and a very microcosmic view of who you are, and the entirety of you, the quantum you. This is such a small part of you, having a really limited experience. But we knew that from the eternal soul self, the part of us that's all the way out here. We knew that when we decided to incarnate here, or we were chosen, we selected this opportunity to express ourselves in a human form in this lifetime, in this timeline, okay? So we're always and ever out here and then coming into this. So if you think of 4D as like a canopy of energy, it's like a big energetic soup of energy. It's like a buffer zone between you and 3D and you in 5D, okay? And there are different hubs of awareness within that. But if you think of yourself in a sphere of influence that's 3D, think of 4D as a canopy that's out here like this, and it covers 3D, and it's a buffer zone. And it's a zone where we're playing with all kinds of astral plane experiences, out-of-body experiences, seeing visions of Virgin Mary, working with our ascended masters, seeing demons, representatives of darker energy, villains, heroes. It's all there. It's all an archetype and myth, and it's programmed as part of 4D because it is part of the collective unconscious mind. And there are two ways, because it is so polarized there are two ways that we express the energy that is this filter. So all higher dimensions, okay, that are maybe in buffer zones, if you want to think about it like that, as dimensional layers, here's 3D, here's 4D, here's 5D, here's 6D. All these higher dimensional layers where we are having consciousness that is playing somewhere in these higher dimensional realms. All of this information has to come through and filter down through 4D in order to reach us and ground us where we are and where most of our consciousness is residing at the moment, only at the moment, in 3D. So this filter zone, yes, it'll bring in higher messages from higher dimensional levels of energy, ascended consciousness, elevated consciousness, but it does something interesting when it reaches the buffer zone of 4D. It polarizes. And in that, as creative beings in 3D, because this is our playground, and it doesn't feel that way, but we are deciding what we're playing with down here, very much so. But we're picking it out first from the energetic soup of 4D, where you have a full spectrum, polarized all the way from the extremely negative, all the way up to the extremely positive. And we're choosing what we want to use to create. And there's two ways that we create here. We either become warriors or artists. So when you feel like, and I'll just break this down in a very easy way, when you feel like you're really flowing with your life and you're using the best of your skills and talents and abilities and gifts, and you're in the zone, you're having fun with your life, don't you feel like an artist? You're tuned into certain things like, the beauty of paintings or reading your favorite books or being outside, and all of this is lending to your artistry because you're in tune and grounded in this realm. You feel like an artist. And when you're at odds with yourself, meaning you are arguing against your own self-worth, you feel diminished in some way. I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I hate my life, fuck my life. Aren't you at odds with everything else too? You're a warrior. Again, we're talking about archetypes here because I want this to lend to your understanding of what 4D is. This is the realm of the human collective mind. It's kind of an energetic soup of polarities, both positive and negative. It's the playground of the collective mind, 4D. Archetypes, myth, collective unconscious, and messages from higher dimensions are the source of human creativity, but they have to filter through 4D before they can reach us in the density of 3D. So there is dark and light forces. And the 4D intelligences, if you want to call them the keepers of 4D or that dimensional realm, because every dimensional realm has keepers or watchers. We are the keepers of 3D, humans, okay? We are the set of intelligences that run 3D. It doesn't feel that way, okay? But maybe after this talk, you'll get a bigger understanding of why it doesn't feel that way. And 4D has keepers as well. Intelligences that kind of mind the field, the astral realm of what 4D is. And they're like guardians of the police of that, if you want to think of it. I like keepers of 4D. Those intelligences split the information that comes in from the higher dimensional awarenesses into positive and negative, light and dark. So we're receiving all the messages from the higher dimensions. All of that is in 4D too. But it just so happens that there's something else really important to talk about with 4D. This is the realm of the collective mind. So we're talking about the thought collective of the human unconscious, and we are talking about feelings. So if you've been following me for a while, maybe you've heard me say a few times that, you don't intellectualize your way into 5D. You don't think your way into 5D. You feel your way into 5D, okay? And the only way to feel your way into 5D is to feel through the energetic collective soup of 4D first. And yes, that does mean having a sampler plate, a buffet, a tasting, a prix fix of all the negative and the positive flavors of feelings that you can have in 4D. You have to go through that. That's the initiation portal. because that's where we gain wisdom about who we really are, by going through the contrast of, yes, things that don't taste so great on that Prix Fix menu. We have to go through that so that we can gain the wisdom of knowing, I no longer choose that. Me as a sovereign being in charge of my God self perspective, me being in my God self perspective, I can say, now that I've had the experience of this, I can say I opt out. I no longer need to explore that contrast. I just want this. I'm just putting these flavors on my plate from now on. We have to go through this, and this is what 4D is, okay? It is a feeling place more than anything. This is where the thoughts and feelings contained in the historical record of Earth all live. So when people are tapping into the Akashic records, they are tapping into 4D. Because all the patterns of being for humans on Earth, that's all recorded in the Akashic records. Okay? The Akashic records couldn't be accessed if it wasn't for 4D. Because the sense of known time and timelines in 4D is vast. It is vast. It's greater than what we can comprehend. Okay? 3D is more physical. It is more truncated. And in terms of the realm or level of experience that happens in 3D, it is much more micro-encapsulated than 4D. 4D is vast. Did I say vast? Bigger than we can comprehend? That's what it is. That's why you have access to the information that you do in the Akashic records. Everything that everybody's done, thought, or said, right? Anywhere, anytime, is accessible through the Akash, okay? You wouldn't be able to access the Akashic records if it wasn't for 4D. 3D is more physical. It's more tangible. It's a direct experience through physicality, through the 5 senses. And where that's true for 3D, where it's physical, 4D is really feelings. Yes, it's the thought collective, but it's really more about feelings. And it's a vast soup of feelings in this realm to choose from. The sampler plate, the buffet. Anything that we feel in 3D comes from 4D first. And all of the higher dimensions are filtering through 4D. But the 4D intelligences will split that information into polarized ways of being, negative, positive, light or dark, whatever you want to call it, okay? So this spectrum goes from all of that. The most extreme polarization of those spectrums and everything in between. I know that's a lot to take in, but think about that for a second. Maybe just think about that for a second while you have a glass of water or sip of water. And take that part in, because I need you to digest that before I talk about what's next. So if 4D is this vast spectrum where all of these, polarized emotions exist, these feelings and thoughts that are part of the unconscious collective. We think about arriving at the vibration of 5D. Right now, we've arrived at 3D because we're out here. We're out here first. We're everything first. And as we come through the dimensional spectrum and come downward through the dimensional spectrum, if you want to think about it that way. I mean, I'm talking about stuff that's non-local, but I'm just trying to give you a visual so you can think about, you're always out here. Your consciousness resides anywhere your soul deems that it wants to be a creator self and have an experience in that realm, that dimensional level. Right now, your soul is deciding that it wants to put its focus and attention mostly on 3D, meaning it wants to arrive at 3D. So when you think about moving your expression of you and expand it outward, moving up and out, if you want to think of it that way, arriving at 5D, you're going to do that by arriving at feelings that vibrate with that spectrum of consciousness. And you can't get there until you go through all the contrast that 4D brings you, because it's giving you the opportunity to suss out, process, investigate those feelings that don't have a supporting vibration in 5D. Okay? Greed. Let's just take greed. That is not a vibration that's supported in 5D, a little bit actually. When you get into the lower hub of 5D, it's a little bit there. But then you're being invited to let it go completely. Think about it that way. Or what would be another really good example? Blame. Blame. It's not a vibration that's supported in 5D. So think about 4D as giving you an example, or many examples, in your feeling you, in your thought you, to suss out all the different ways you're playing with the contrast of blame so that you can investigate why it's there, clear it out, purge it, and then integrate it into you so that you can move to the next station of awareness. That's what 4D allows you to do. We can't move to 5D without the initiation portal of 4D, okay? We can't have a physical or an intellectual shift into 5D. It is a feeling shift into 5D. We have to feel our way into it. So what is interesting about the collective energy of 4D and the fact that 4D intelligences split this energy between positive and negative influences, dark and light parts of the spectrum. Collective negative energy accumulates in 4D like noxious gases, okay? Like sitting in your garage and running your car with the garage door closed. The collective negative energy, if it isn't purged properly, meaning, why would there be an upshot in collective negative energy? Why would it collect? Why would it not release? Because a lot of people are walking around wounded with unresolved trauma. Because a lot of people have suppressed emotions. Because a lot of people have been told since they were a little kids should be seen, not heard. Because a lot of women have felt very insecure about expressing their emotions because they thought harm would come to them if they did. A lot of people are walking around wounded thinking they're so stupid they can't possibly express themselves, so they shove it all down inside. We have people with suppressed urges, impulses, because they don't have a healthy way to express them. Desires that become very dark because they haven't learned to express them properly throughout their lives. This is all what collects in 4D and creates a mass tipping point towards negative polarized energy. And it builds up like noxious fumes, noxious gases, and they don't get released. So yes, there's higher dimensional realities still filtering through 4D, but they get choked out by the noxious gases of unreleased, pent-up energy that does not get properly discharged in a healthy way. So why does this have to do with what happened at the state or the the national capital yesterday in the United States? I'll give you one guess. What happened with this insurgence, this failed coup, okay, of people who are supporting a leader who is, yes, highly out of integrity. This is not a political commentary. This is me making a point about 4D. So if you start to in on me about politics, I will block you from this call. That's not what this is about. Remember how I teach. I'm talking about the bigger picture here. What happened yesterday has nothing to do with politics. I'm going to say it again. What happened yesterday has nothing to do with politics. Nothing. Let me ask you this. When you think about higher dimensional realities, let's just say 5D even, 6D, 7D, even though you may not know a lot about those higher dimensional realities. By the way, if you want to join my Quantum Potential Society, we're going to spend 16 weeks talking about 4, 5, 6, and 7D. More on that in the summit. I'm going to tell you about that in the summit, but you can pre-reserve that spot now because there's only going to be 33 spots for this. But when you think about 5D even, maybe you don't know a ton about it, or 6D or 7D, do you think political systems like the ones we have here on Earth at this time, exist in those higher dimensional realities? Where you have such polarizing, dualistic points of view. So why do you think we have it here? Politics as a system which is very dualistic in nature, very polarizing, very divisive in nature. Why do we have a system or a structure like that here in 3D? Why do you think that is? Given the greater context and the bigger picture of what I'm talking about here, about what 4D does to influence human reality and creativity in 3D, why would we have a political system here that is so polarizing, so dualistic here? Structure so divisive? Because it's an opportunity to work our shit out. It's an opportunity to, anytime you have a structure like politics, it could be anything, religion, also extremely divisive. It's an opportunity to work out our stuff. It's an opportunity to feel our way back into remembering who we really are. It's an opportunity to solidify our values and what matters. And to commit to and have kind of a platform for seeing, you know, a projected reality for seeing when these certain things play out, this is what it looks like. When these feelings, these thought forms play out, this is what this looks like. And what yesterday served to show us as a collective is that when we have pent-up aggressions, unchecked traumas, unprocessed deeper feelings that have turned dark over time, we're going to find a way. Believe me, humans are extremely creative. We're going to find a way to collectively purge that. When that energy gets so pent up, like noxious gases, like a car running in a sealed garage, that energy is going to leak out somewhere, and it's going to get pent up to a point where there's going to be a discharge, and it's going to be ugly. Yesterday's display had nothing to do with politics. It had everything to do with people who are out of alignment with their inner authority. They either don't trust themselves, they're operating in a false theme, which is also present in 4D, and we trickle that down here into our 3D reality, where we have a savior complex, where we believe in some Messiah, meaning there is someone who's going to come and save us from ourselves. That is not living in integrity with your inner authority. That is emotional immaturity, which equals spiritual immaturity. You have people who are not in charge of their inner authority, meaning they don't have any sense of emotional mastery. They're not in a place where they are in charge of their own feelings and their own thoughts. They farm out that responsibility to someone else. And if they're vibrating at a very low level, chances are they're going to latch onto someone who is also vibrating at a very low level with no real moral authority, no real leadership qualities. And I've talked many times about true leadership comes from emotional maturity and spiritual maturity alike. Not from moral bankruptcy, that's for sure. And so the wisdom we can download from seeing that is what happens when, number one, 4D energies get so pent up that there needs to be a discharge. And it shows us exactly where we are out of integrity with our inner authority, where we are not even close to being in emotional mastery, where our thoughts and feelings are just being downloaded from the mass tipping point of negative polarities already existing in 4D. We're going to filter from that level of experience. We can tip that, but the only way we tip that is working on our own personal stuff. And that means even looking at what happened yesterday here in the US as an example, and noticing your response to that. Initially, there's anger. There is dismay, extreme disappointment. I felt my heart just drop out of my chest. And then I got a hold of myself. And I remembered, all right, without my own emotional mastery over my response to this experience, I'm just as helpless as those folks who were involved in that massive, ugly skirmish. When you are in charge of your own inner authority, and you feel you have inner authority, and you always do, you always have power, but we've been learned out of it, and we've been taught not to trust it, to put our trust in greater, bigger, more grandiose personalities, and we can see where that's gotten us, right? You are the most grandiose personality you should be investing in. And you have to believe and trust that you have inner authority and you have the ability to move to emotional mastery. What it takes in sussing out these energies of 4D and realizing that, okay, I can either be catering to the negative polarity spectrum in 4D, and I can continue to be a stream or an individuated funnel of consciousness that allows that stream to flow through me, or I can be very responsible for knowing and discerning. And discernment is everything, you guys. It's everything right now. It always has been, but now more than ever. Discerning what thoughts are your own, meaning what thoughts and feelings are generated from inside of you, and what thoughts and feelings are you pulling in like an antenna because you're a vibrational match for it from something outside of you, something external. Because dollars to donuts, folks, if you can't discern between those two things, and you end up by default just constantly making yourself a receiver from the transmitters of 4D energies, still trying to clean out that negative collective energy, purging that, you're just going to make yourself an unwitting host for more of those energies to stream through. Your emotional mastery, your emotional empowerment, having authority, inner authority over your thoughts and feelings, is either you being a pawn of 4D or you using it in the positive way that I talked about. We're either expressing energies from 4D in one of two ways. You're using it to fuel your creativity as an artist, or fuel your anger and hatred as a warrior. That's how polarizing 4D is, okay? Is this making sense? 5D is not just love and light, it's a completely different set of frequencies. Exactly, and Crystal makes a good point. 5D is not just love and light, it's a completely different set of frequencies. It's a completely different set of frequencies. It's a different vibrational spectrum where we're choosing to feel and think and express and behave and act, okay? 3D has its own set of frequencies for that. 4D does, 5D, 6D, 7D, etc. And there are lower hubs of 5D consciousness where there is still some polarity being explored. And I was kind of surprised to find that out. But the more investigating I did, that's true. So I hope that answers your question, Crystal. What are my thoughts? Yes, there's still a little bit of polarity to explore. And remember, there is a universal, immutable law of polarity. That everything that exists has an equal and opposite energy, okay? This is an immutable, meaning unchangeable universal law throughout universal consciousness, throughout dimensional awarenesses, okay? But 5D in the lower consciousness hubs of 5D, literally like right when you jump from that buffer of 4D, because 4D and 5D, all dimensional realities overlap. But in the lower hub of consciousness of 5D, there's still duality to explore there. Still some contrast. Not a lot, but it's there. And it's like a final proving ground. Not that you're being tested, but it's like a proving ground. Like, are you really ready to let this go? Because this portal of awareness is wide open to you, but you got to be able to let this go. Because this, where you're going next, in a higher stepped hub of consciousness of 5D, that duality that you might still be exploring, it's not supported vibrationally, okay? Absolutely. Yes, Kathryn, is there a connection between 4D and the sleep realm? Absolutely. Because don't we dream in metaphor? Don't we dream in archetypes? This is all relegated to the realm of 4D. The Aborigines, when they talk about dream time, that what they're doing is actually manipulating lower potentials of 4D. And the Aborigines are fucking incredible because they're doing this for the collective unconscious. They are using their dream time to work on clearing and purging certain frequencies like the ones I'm talking about that build up like noxious gases in 4D and create a tipping point of mass consciousness here in 3D, what the Aborigines do in dream time, they are playing in that 4D realm to help the collective of humanity clear out chaos. Next time you see an Aborigine, go ahead and thank them. And they are probably one of the most adept humans at working in the 4D realms in dream time to manipulate potentials that end up arriving at 3D, if that makes sense. So that's a great question. So I talked a little bit about, how yesterday in the US, a day that will go down in historical infamy here in the United States, how this is a great living example of what happens when the energies in 4D reach a tipping point of mass consciousness and when they filter through our dimensional reality and they get expressed here. Okay? There are other higher dimensional energies that could filter through 4D and be expressed here in 3D. We just don't happen to be doing that at the moment. But that is entirely possible. But we have to feel our way through that. And the best way to start is to feel your way through what happens when we have extremely challenging moments like what we experienced yesterday here in the United States. Your response to that, and you feeling your way to a higher truth in response to that, is how you work through 4D successfully as an initiation portal to getting to 5D. Does that make sense? Do you guys get what I'm saying with that? I mean, what we saw yesterday is a lot of people who are not in touch with their inner authority, who are out of touch with their emotional mastery, out of touch with emotional maturity, and thusly spiritual maturity, because those things go together, spiritual maturity and emotional maturity. They can't not. Out of touch with what leadership means. And we get to see what happens when leadership qualities really go south. You have someone who's posturing himself as a savior, some sort of messiah, for whom I don't really know. But this comes from 4D. You know, when we think about not just gods, you know, when we talk about like the Greek gods, the Greek myths, okay? Their identities are relegated to the realms of 4D because they represent certain archetypal things in our collective unconscious about, you know, all the gods are in charge of certain virtues, etc. That's all 4D, folks, okay? So when you think about even kings or queens, okay, religious leaders, political leaders, they're all going to represent certain values and virtues or not, as the case may be. They may represent what we think of as being, you know, heroes or villains. Okay, this is all 4D. So that's where a savior complex originates from. It comes from 4D, where you're not emotionally mature, meaning you're not spiritually mature, and you're out of touch with your own inner authority. You can't discern truth, meaning a higher spiritual truth. You have your version of the truth, which is subjective, but I'm talking about the objective, higher spiritual truth. You also don't trust your own power. You don't trust yourself. This is all the dark side of 4D playing out. Filtering through this dimensional realm and coming into 3D where we're grounding it. It doesn't have to stay this way. But there is that gift in the garbage where we're able to download this wisdom and saying, okay, now I see what you're saying, Kathryn. So that's a great living example yesterday of how the dark side of 4D, those noxious gases of negative polarized emotions and thought fields get built up in 4D. It has no choice but to kind of rain down this awareness into 3D. Okay? Getting more and more difficult to dialogue with my mother for this reason. 3D is her comfort zone. Yeah. And so now that we are accelerating, and it doesn't feel this way sometimes, I know, but trust me, we're not seeing it yet. It hasn't arrived in 3D yet, but we are moving very, very quickly through accelerated vibrations and frequencies, shifts in consciousness. It just takes a while to have it tangibly show up in 3D in a way where we can recognize it. But it's not going to look like it did before either. So Don't wait around for something to show up to give you proof. You have to trust and surrender that belief that we're not changing, we're not moving, we're not shifting, especially after seeing what happened yesterday. This is a part of the shift, you guys. And it's a big part. We need these storms to clear the path. And I don't mean to be glib, because I know people suffered as a result of yesterday. People died as a result of yesterday. I'm not trying to be trite about that at all. But the higher perspective on this is what I'm always trying to share with you guys, that these storms have to happen. This buildup of pent-up energy has to discharge in order to clear the space so that we can move into the next frequency vibration. We can move into the next level of dimensional awareness. So we literally release it, so we don't have to take it with us. We don't have to have this baggage. But it has to be conscious. It has to be participatory. Your response to it has to be that, all right, I am going to take a higher God self perspective on this. I am going to see this for the invitation that it is to let go of my own shit, to work through my own shit. If you felt reactionary about yesterday, there is something for you to look at. If you had a response where you took a beat and sent a prayer out to everyone involved, even the wrongdoers, the misled, misguided ones, then you were in a place of response where you are actively working through the darker shadow aspects that are being filtered down from 4D, and you're dealing with them with a level that is moving you towards emotional mastery. That's where you want to be. If you were able to yesterday suss out, what are these feelings that I'm feeling? Are they my own? Or am I allowing things to filter in from the collective thought mind? If you can't discern those two things, good luck moving past the energetic soup of 4D. And I'm not trying to be negative or stoke fear in you. I'm trying to, empower you with the sense of responsibility that you have for your own inner authority. That takes work. It takes investigation. It takes exploration. It takes courage to be able to look at the dark side of you and say, yeah, that is me. I own that. I own that. But I don't have to be this person. I don't have to express this. Remember, everything about moving into higher dimensional awareness is not about killing off the darkness. It is not about eradicating the darkness. That is never going to happen. We live in a universe of polarity. Didn't I just talk about the universal law of polarity? The only way to move past the darkness is to figure out how to rise up in vibration and live above it. And you're only never going to do that through your own investigation. And then your own commitment to processing and integrating these darker shadow parts of self. Because you're never going to get past 4D either really completely. I mean, we all have consciousness residing in all of the dimensional realms. But where are you putting most of your focus and energy? If you're constantly at war with yourself and constantly at war with the world, you might stay in 4D forever. Right? And if you're not moving forward and processing and integrating your emotions and feeling your way into something better, because that's, in a nutshell, what it is moving into 5D, feeling your way into something better, not just for yourself, but the collective of everyone. If you can't do that, you're going to be stuck in the energetic soup of 4D for a really long time. And we are moving through so many different consciousness hubs of 4D right now. And we just blew past a major one. So you're either going to take this information and learn from it and download wisdom from it, or you're just going to scratch your head and say, why do humans suck so bad? Which one feels better? To just be in that thinking constantly, wow, why do humans suck so bad? It's up to you entirely. You have free will choice to feel about this however you want to. But this is for those who are asking, how do I move beyond? How do I keep working the steps of elevating my consciousness? Okay? We have to see the bigger picture in all things. We have to investigate all sides. This is also how we move past staying in the consciousness hub of 4D. if we can investigate all sides. See where everything is actually more similar rather than different. Okay, when you think about, I'll give you a really good example of this, about seeing all sides and letting the archetypal forces just kind of flow through us instead of getting stuck in them. Okay, religion. Organized religion is a great example. We talk about the big three, right? Judaism, Christianity, Islam. So much argument, so much divisiveness between those big three. They are way more similar than they are different. And those watching who are, very entrenched into their organized religion experience and cannot see all sides, you're going to tell me I'm full of shit. I don't care. But you have to understand that there are certain forces, intelligences, yes, in 4D, that are giving us these same things to look at, which seem at first blush to be divisive and contrasting. And from our 3D and even 4D perspective, we're going to go along with that and play the division game, play the contrast game. But our higher perspective, our God self aspect of who we are, actually sees where all these things are actually really quite similar. They all originate from a very close point in the globe. In terms of geographically where they all originated, same area of the world, okay? A lot of cultural similarities, okay? You have a prophet, Abraham, Islam, Judaism, Christianity. How do you have one prophet who's accepted by all three very divisive religions? Okay? That's just one example. We have to be able to, if we want to move past the consciousness hub of 4D and progress in our spiritual awakening and enlightenment, we have to be willing to look at all sides. Because this is what 4D teaches us. It allows us to evaluate and investigate, but not attach. 4D is a place to investigate and play. And that's why people who, sometimes, and I've seen this, I've worked with clients who've had this happen, they get lost in the world of archetypes or feel like it doesn't matter what they're going through in life. They always feel like they have an energetic attachment, some sort of parasitic entity, so that they feel like a host. It's because they are so embodied in the consciousness hub of 4D that they can't find their way out of it. And that's true even for people who have I have the strongest ascended master connection and this, that, and the other thing. But what happens also in this playground of the collective mind, which is 4D, this astral realm of fantasy, sometimes we can get so blindsided by our connections there that we don't realize that other intelligences can come through and use that connection as a funnel to reach you and bring you into a different level of frequency or darkness, if you want to call it that. We have to always be in this place where we're discerning, are these feelings my own? Is this for me to work on? Or is this the collective? That's how we move through 4D. We have to see the bigger picture in all things. We have to investigate all sides. Calling our God self into perspective, more often than not now, is the best way for you to ensure that you can be in the place of 4D, experience the consciousness hub that this is, download the wisdom from this that you can, and move into different stations of awareness. We're always going to play with some level of duality a little bit while we're in a human body. So you're never going to be done with 4D completely. But there is a way for you to move through that consciousness hub without attaching yourself to it. Does that make sense? This is your discernment to look at all sides of everything, to really be in that God self perspective of you and look at all sides, investigate and discern. Investigate and discern. These are your buzzwords for working through these very, very active 4D energies right now. Investigate and discern. Investigate, ask yourself, are these my feelings? Are these my thoughts? Is this originating from inside of me or outside of me? And if it's inside of you, investigate further. Why is that? Why is it there? How can you clear that up? Discern. When you are in that place of looking at all sides of something, why would those different sides be presenting themselves? Because there's something to learn from all sides of that. All polarities have something to teach. Okay? How willing are you to be open to that and surrender yourself to that teaching? It's only and ever up to you and your free will choice and how much you want to participate in your own process of spiritual awakening even further, right? What thoughts are your own? What are actually part of the collective mind, not really for you to work on? Okay? So I want to take you through a little practice here. So I've been talking for a while, but I want to take you through this little practice. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. But if you want to know about how to work through greater levels of understanding 4D, I'm going to be teaching a 16-week program, and it's only $199, which is an amazing example to get support for your ascension journey for 4 months. And we're going to be talking about in-depth 4D, 5D, 6D, and 7D. And every week we're going to have discussion, and we're going to have quantum accelerator sessions. It's called the Quantum Potential Society, and it's going to start on March 11th. But every week we're going to have quantum accelerator sessions. So not only are we going to be talking about different dimensional awarenesses like I've done here today, but I'm going to make it very tangible for you, because we're going to, in these quantum accelerator sessions, they're going to be guided remote viewing journeys where you're going to go into those dimensional levels of awareness and work on whatever it is you want to work on. Maybe you want to bring your skill sets from 7D forward. Maybe you want to bring your gifts and abilities from 5D forward. Maybe you want to connect with the 5D level of consciousness that's already playing in that dimensional realm and bring that information, that wisdom into your life. And we're going to be working on all kinds of stuff. It's only open to 33 people because that's a sweet spot where I can still give support to a large group. And I'm announcing it officially. I'm announcing it now. But the cart officially opens the weekend of my summit. So February 5th through 7th is the Global Acceleration of Ascension Summit. And the cart is going to open for that now. But I'm taking reservations for that. It's $199 until February 26th. And then it goes up to $299. This is for 16 weeks of support and working with me. So it's a huge deal if you're into it. Anyway, Rachel says, this is so in line with what I've written out as my hurdle to leap over this year to propel myself from my current reality to my big vision. Awesome. And it is, and we're all working this out. That's the thing. None of us on this planet right now is immune from the energies of 4D. Not a single one, not a single human being. A lot of us are working through different levels of fantasy and astral realities, astral projections that are showing up in 3D because we're downloading them into the physical, because as creator beings in our realm, we are all keepers of the 3D reality as humans. We're downloading so much stuff into 4D right now. And in that downloading, we're trying to figure out what works for us, what we want to ground into, and what we choose to reject. What contrast we no longer need to play with or explore. Okay, and this is good. And this is going to heighten our skill set of discernment. Okay. Let's have a little guided practice, shall we? So go ahead and take a sip of water. This is just like a little meditation I'm going to kind of guide you through, but this is a practice that you can use to help you investigate and discern in your own life a little bit more, knowing when, excuse me, you're playing a little bit too much with the fantasy realm of 4D and maybe attaching yourself to that. Because the more we attach ourselves to 4D, meaning we don't choose to take information and bring it down and ground it into 3D, or we don't choose to move forward and express ourselves through our fifth dimensional self. When we're staying in 4D and playing there, we attach, and thusly we allow things to attach to us. Just because of where the mass consciousness of 4D is at the moment, it's pretty dark. We're still purging lots of it. We're not going to see the end of this for a little while, folks. And February is going to be bumpy. I just want to tell you. February is going to be bumpy, but it's okay, because it's all opportunities for further investigation and further discernment. Okay? So this tool is going to help you. All right, so take a sip of water. Just get yourself comfortable. I want you to kind of connect with your breath. First of all, let's connect with the breath. Sometimes we talk about this stuff, we hear it, you know, our ego mind gets a little crazy because talking about this stuff, it's not on the radar of your ego. Your ego has really no dominion over stuff that is not known or familiar. And when we're talking about these concepts, sometimes it can send your central nervous system into a bit of a little flurry. So just take a deep breath. And you might want to just address your ego and say, you know, it's okay. We're going to figure this out. Don't worry. Don't get panicked. Our God self knows what to do. Even if your ego self doesn't, your God self always knows what's going on. Your higher dimensional self is always alert and aware and ready to guide you. Okay? Take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just feel a kind of wave of energetic flow and light. Just kind of go from the top of the head, just kind of flow right through you. And just bring the energy down. Let it be a very calming kind of cascade of energy over your body. You may want to bring your energy all the way down and just ground your core. Just take this all the way down into the crystalline core of Terra. And you can just say, I am grounded, I am grounded, I am grounded. This can also calm your central nervous system as well. If you feel like Mama Earth has got you, she's got your back, you tend to feel a little more supported, a little more relaxed. So in this space, ask yourself, do you know feelings that come from inside yourself? Do you know feelings that come from inside yourself? Versus feelings that come from outside yourself. And just go ahead and call in God self, God self, God self. God self, God self, God self. God self, God self, God self. Help me discern this. The difference between knowing when feelings and thought forms originate from inside myself and where they're originating or creating outside myself. Do you know the difference between feelings that you've created or feelings that others have created? And we're all very empathic. And so we can be natural filters for feelings, especially strong and intense feelings that are created outside of ourselves. And if we're not in a good place of discernment or in a place where we're willing to investigate, we'll just naturally take them on as our own. But they may not actually be things for us to work on. They may be something that is just echoed in the collective. And there are a lot of things being echoed in the collective right now by what we're purging, what we're actively releasing and moving away from. Old vibrations, old frequency spectrums that no longer hold a collective vibration for us, but as their last gasp before they collapse entirely. There's always a crescendo, there's always an upshot in energy. And this can echo a lot of things into the collective thought mind, 4D, and the collective field of feeling, which is also 4D, that we'll take on, we think it's our own. Ask your God self for greater levels of discernment in being able to very easily separate those feelings that you create inside yourself as a response to experiences and events in your own life versus experiences that are created from the collective historical timeline. pick any big feeling you're having right now. Any feeling that feels it's like it's big, it's overtaking you. Whatever comes to you at this time. It could be just a feeling. Maybe you have an image attached to that. Just go to that feeling. Just go to that feeling. See what comes to you. Now, make an attempt to kind of catch that feeling. Imagine you're like harnessing it. You can imagine like it's like a butterfly. This thought or feeling, and you're throwing a net over it. You're capturing it. Bring it to you. No matter what it is, just bring it to you. It's okay. It's okay. Because we only have to sit with it for a second here. We don't have to relive something in our history. We're just catching this feeling so we can have full awareness of it. Take this feeling, any image you have attached to it, any kind of vision that surrounds that, make it bigger. Just for a second. See it from all sides. Really see it and feel it. Be in it. Anytime you're feeling something, it is now. So just let it be now. Because a second later, you can change your now. Okay? So never have fear when you're in these moments of catching this emotion, as big as intense as it might be. Because your now is only and ever chosen by you. Now, you're choosing to work on something that could have power over you if you let it. But from your God self vantage point, you're saying, I choose to deal with this now. Investigate it, process it, purge it, release it, move on, and download the wisdom that it has taught me. And your next now moment can be a completely different one, a delightful one. Okay? So let go of any fear of that. See this from all sides. Really make it big. What is it doing inside your body? Especially your solar plexus. Notice what's going on in your solar plexus. This is your power center, the seat of your will. Imagine it's like your solar plexus is like a drum. Is this feeling that you've caught, is it banging on it like a huge kettle drum? Or does it feel like a little tom-tom? That might help you tune into the intensity of this feeling, okay? Is it big? Are you feeling this like overtake your whole solar plexus, your entire torso? Or does it just feel like a little panging around your belly button? Get in tune with how big this feels. Because how big it is directly going to contribute to how many tethers it has into all areas of your life. Okay? And just notice how this feels. Anything that's attached to this feeling, meaning just be with this, let it be bigger. Any other thoughts or feelings that are coming in on the heels of this frequency that you're holding by being with this feeling has something to tell you about where you are in your life right now. What other feelings are coming in? What other visions? What other thoughts? Maybe it's something that somebody said to you. Maybe it's something from yesterday. Maybe it's something from 5 years ago. It doesn't matter what it is. There is no time when we're in this space. You're working with your God self. You're working with a higher vantage point of view. You're in timelessness. And anything that you're feeling, no matter when it happened in your life, if you're feeling it now, it is now. Doesn't matter if it was 20 years ago. Doesn't matter if it was yesterday. If you're feeling it, it's now. Breathe. Remember, your body is this incredibly powerful biofeedback mechanism telling you where you're out of alignment with Source, where you're out of alignment with your divinity by having this feeling. This is a learning experience. It's coming up to be healed, says David. Yes. So let this giant feeling, let it feel like a knot. Really feel it. Where is it coming from? Where did this start? You can change this by knowing where it began. If you can understand how it got there, you can understand how to let it go. Maybe it got there through something that happened in the collective. Can you make peace with that? That this was meant to show you that it is out of integrity for you to hold something that happened in the collective as your own to work on. It only separates you further from another degree of separation from your own divinity, your own sovereignty, your own inner authority. Is it something that happened to you? Something that happened for you? So you could download an experience to give you wisdom, insight, so you could know yourself better. Sometimes this is hard to just be with this. Take whatever time you need here, and you can also do this later. But if you think that this is more than you can handle right now, it's okay to stop. Just find your breath. Find your way back to your body. Find your way back to the core of the earth if this feels too much. But if you want to continue, you can give yourself a little prompt here and say, God Self, I agree to letting the learning begin. I agree to let the learning begin. This gives your God Self, that higher vantage point of view, the green light to let the wisdom just cascade down from you. This is all held in 4D too. Because remember what I said, the higher messages from dimensions 5 and beyond filter through this canopy of light, this energetic soup too. So you open yourself up then to this cascade of higher messages filtering through 4D that reach you through the mechanism of relating 4D to you, which is thought forms and emotions. Let them wash over you. What is it? Find your breath here. If you're noticing that you need to catch your breath or you're holding your breath, take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Once you know where this feeling is coming from, you can see how you can change the feeling. You can make it go away by understanding that the reason why it got there in the first place. Maybe there's some action you need to take. Maybe it was an argument you had with someone, and maybe you could just forgive this person. Maybe you can forgive yourself. Maybe you started the argument. Maybe you got a little surly. What can you do in this moment right now to change the energy of this? To change the frequency of this? To lessen it and move it higher up on the vibrational spectrum of consciousness, where it feels good, where you're feeling closer to source, where the energy feels expanded rather than contracted. And maybe as you're letting go of this and saying, I open myself up to letting the learning begin, I agree to let the learning begin. Notice how maybe you're feeling that drum on your solar plexus before. Maybe it feels less intense. Maybe it feels lighter. Maybe there is no drum beat anymore. It's just a stillness. All that matters is that this feeling stops pounding. It goes away. Write something down. Take a sip of water. Take this information outside. Walk it around. Ask the earth to help you purge it, transmute these energies. And once this feeling passes, the intensity of the contraction stops. And you know you've succeeded. Be proud of yourself because you've surrendered to your inner authority. You and only you have the power to save yourself from yourself. Anytime you think that the authority that exists for you to be healed is somehow held in power by someone, something outside of you, you're playing too much in 4D. And the more you do this kind of exercise, the quicker and more efficient you'll be at getting to the source of where that separation anxiety is existing. Because anytime you're in pain, you have emotional wounding, you have trauma. That's separation anxiety from your God self. There is some cue that you've given yourself a lesson or a contract to work through to find your way back to your divinity, to remember who you are. Pain, emotional wounding, thought forms that are diminishing are all cues that you are in separation anxiety from your God self. And it's only and ever you that can find your way back. Sure, you can work with people who help you, but I didn't heal you here. You're healing you. I'm just giving you the tool, the foundation to, work it out. And just take a deep breath in and let this go. Notice how you feel now. Does anyone feel more relaxed or a little more in tune? You feel maybe safer in this space? Maybe that pounding stopped on your belly. Write something down here if you need to. It might just be a word. It might just be a word that has popped up from the realm of 4D and the collective unconscious, that if you write it down, it could be a catalyst for a really great journal exercise, right? An automatic writing session. The more you do this kind of exercise when you have these huge emotional shifts, because we are going to have challenging days ahead. I'm not going to try to gloss this over. It's going to be challenging, and it always and ever come down to you being able to respond to these events with integrity, with your God self, or not. Just notice how you feel now. And you may want to do more of your own research on 4D if you feel intrigued by this conversation. But how's everybody doing right now? Are you feeling okay? Drink some water if you have it. Hi, Maureen. Yeah, so just if you need to, and if especially if you came in halfway through this talk, please go back and watch the entire thing. And it may be something you want to watch, listen to again. You may find this very, very helpful. And understanding that this is a powerful, powerful realm of consciousness, pulling a lot of strings for what's happening in 3D right now. 4D is a powerful consciousness hub of fantasy, of playing out certain things, especially for the collective consciousness, that need to be purged before we can move on to greater levels of being. It is an initiation portal, and we all have to go through it, because it is always and ever teaching us about where we're in separation anxiety with our God self and our divinity, our inner authority. And what's wonderful about the realm of 4D is built into this realm of consciousness. It's exactly our way to find our way back to selves, because it is showing us that much contrast. So I hope this has been helpful for you and timely for those of you who are really feeling it. Use this exercise, create maybe a different version for yourself that feels more like it speaks to you, but let the steps be similar. But, make it as short or as long as you like. But it's always and ever about investigation and discernment right now. Are these feelings originating inside of me, these thought forms? Are they mine? Is it mine to work on? Or I'm calling in my God self and I'm asking for the discernment to show me where it is stuff that's outside of me. And is it even for me to work on? Sometimes it's not. And sometimes we could just let it go right there, right? We're all empathic. We're all empathic. We're all downloading stuff from each other all the time. We're all projecting each other's stuff back to each other all the time. But we don't have to continue at this spectrum of frequency where we keep exploring the same contrast over and over again. We purged a lot from that already in the few precious weeks of this year so far. That's a good indication, because it means we're ready to let this stuff go. We are. So I want to wish you guys an absolutely beautiful week. Much, much love and light to you all. Love and peace.